Given that the negotiations have not concluded, we're not here to talk about any details and aspects of the negotiations, but to clarify the status of negotiations and the process being followed. We need to respect the collective bargaining process. As such, we may not be able to answer all the questions that you might pose. We understand that as students, you have a great deal of concern about the possibility of a work stoppage and the impact it could have on you, your semester, and final exams. We share your concern, but we remain hopeful a negotiated agreement can be reached and a work stoppage averted. Again, just to be clear, this forum is for you, the students. It is for the President and the Provost to listen to what you have to say and answer your questions about the current state of negotiations as we are able within the boundaries of bargaining in good faith. We have an hour, and I expect everybody to be respectful. If people are not, I will intervene. Today's session will be recorded and posted online. By attending today, you're granting the university permission to record. Finally, I also ask you to be as succinct as possible. There are many students in the room, and we want to hear from as many as possible. I will take questions from left to right across the room and recognize people as they raise their hands. We have runners with microphones. I think we have two runners with microphones. And I ask you to wait for them to come to you before posing your questions. Because this is being recorded, you need to speak into the microphone. I ask that you state your name and field of study before you ask a question. Again, we will take questions from students. There will be an opportunity for the media to ask questions of Dr. Chase following the town hall. So with that, I will now ask President Timmons to come forward to make a very brief opening comment before we begin taking questions.
Yeah, I don't think I have to go to the podium. I have a mic on me, but I want to thank you for coming. I want to just thank the students who emailed me and asked for this meeting, and that's why we initiated, because I had a number of students say, will you talk to us? Will you come out? And of course we would. As soon as we were asked, we set this up for you, so thank you for taking that initiative. I will respond to any direct questions to me at a high level, but actually it's Dr. Chase who oversees the bargaining and is the point person on our senior team and is in a better position to answer some of the specifics for you. So if you ask me a question, I may divert it to him and I'll answer whatever I can answer. So thank you so much. Friday afternoon on a beautiful day that you show up here. That shows your commitment to your studies. So I thank you for that. So I'll ask the Provost to say a few words.
Thanks, Vianne, and again, thank you everybody for coming. For those of you who've written to us in the last couple of days, I think we've responded to just about everybody. If we haven't got to you yet, we will. As Dale said, because we're going back to the bargaining table on Monday and Tuesday, we can't get into specifics about what is at the table, details of the collective bargaining process. That would be a violation of the process. But we're happy to try to answer any questions you have outside that. I know people are concerned about the possibility of job action on campus. We are going into those 2 days of bargaining on Monday and Tuesday with the objective of reaching a good collective agreement and then having that taken out to the membership for a vote. The only other thing I would add at this point is that it's the context in which we are operating that is framing a lot of the decisions that are being made. As you know, in the 17-18 fiscal year, the university's funding was cut by several $1 million. That cut has never been restored. Last year, it was frozen at that level. And as we learned on Wednesday, it is frozen again for another year. So we have some fiscal challenges based on funding to the university. We're trying very hard to mitigate tuition and fee increase to students, and these are some of the things that are framing negotiations and slowing down, finding a way forward. So with those very general remarks, we'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so we're going to do this in a fairly random way. It's just people raise your hand. I'm going to kind of try to move across the room this way. So I hope people have had time to think on the left-hand side where we're going to begin.
Right up in front here.
Yeah, and anyways, we'll go across the room. And so I'll take this young lady right here in front. Here comes the mic.
Hi, my name's Jermel Thompson. I've actually emailed you directly, and I'll be meeting with you on Monday. I appreciate that you got back and clearly read my email. Part of my issue is I'm concerned that the student side isn't also getting spoken. Now, I'm graduating in April, hopefully, but I want more than just that. I need my degree to mean something coming from the University of Regina. And part of that power comes from the people that are teaching if we're just seeing sessionals that aren't having any kind of job security and just getting rotated out, you're going to see a drop. I feel we're going to see a drop in the quality. And that's going to actually make my degree worthless if I don't come from a good university. It's part of why I did choose this place. I mentioned that you and I have met several times,
Yes,
and
we
you've
have.
never shown any kind of recognition to me. Now, you just did recognize me, and I appreciate that. You don't, I'm not expecting any of you to know my name. The professors do that. They're the people that, I'm still here because of a sessional. I had a really hard time at one point, and she recognized that. They're the people that we are seeing, these professors, the sessionals and stuff. They're so important. I don't understand why we've spent so much money to make the university look good with all these signage, yet we can't make sure that the people are here. They're the face of the university to us, to the students. Without the students, you don't have a university. Without these professors, you don't have a university. Why is that not being approached? Why is that not being recognized?
So maybe I'll begin and then I'll turn over to Tom. And I want to say that one of the challenges we have is sessionals are not all, it's not that all working conditions are not the same. And we want some sessionals who are out working in the field, like in business and in education and in social work. So a large proportion of our sessionals actually work full-time and come here to teach you, to bring the practical experience from the field. And we want that, right? And then there's the number that actually are sessionals that do that for a living, and that's who you're speaking about, that small number. We posted on the website an update on our bargaining because we've been asked to do that, and you will see that we have done our best to provide some additional supports for sessional instructors. And this is an issue facing every university across Canada. This is not a U of R issue. And it's one that we are concerned about, and we are monitoring and watching. And we did attempt to actually provide some better working arrangements for our sessionals. And I'm so glad that you had such a positive experience. I'm going to ask the Provost to add.
I can't add much to that except to say I recognize exactly what you said because I had a similar experience when I was a student many years ago here. If you look at the bargaining update on the main webpage, you'll see what we are currently offering. It contains quite a bit of additional money for sessional lecturers because we realize that that class of people needs particular attention. It's been a thrust in the bargaining process this year, and we believe we've responded as appropriately as we can with the resources that we have available to us.
I do have one follow-up then where you said
just need
that.
to make
Very quickly, very
I
quickly.
have one quick follow-up where you said that several universities have this problem.
Every university
Why
does.
can't we lead by example? Why can't we show them how it's done and set the pace?
Yeah, well, we're trying our best to do the best we can for our sessionals within the fiscal context that we have. So, yeah, we are trying.
Okay, this gentleman here at the front.
Thank you. My name is Ben, and I'm a student of La Cité. So the Provost has stated that throughout the negotiating process, the administration's focus has been on students, and the goal is to limit the increase of tuition and fees. I frankly don't buy this, as tuition has raised a total of 36% over the past 10 years, regardless of changes in compensation for academic staff members. So my question would be, how can the Provost support his claim that the focus has been on students and is not just, in fact, a facet of manipulation?
I'll try to answer that question. I don't believe it is a facet of manipulation. Over that same period, total salary and benefit spending at the university has risen by about 22%. But then we have other inflationary costs, such as insurance for the institution, the purchase of electronic resources so that you've got electronic journals for the library, and everything else that it takes to run the institution. Our chief challenge is Ben, right?
Yes.
Our chief challenge is that since 2012, our public funding has not increased at the same rate that our inflationary costs have increased. And then beginning in 2017-18, we had that very severe cut, which has not been restored. And therefore, student tuition and fees are making up a greater proportion of our operating spending, which includes salary and benefits.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else here on the? Okay, right there.
Hi, I'm Carter Myers. I'm an undergraduate in computer science. I guess my question is, in the event, sorry, I'll stand up for you. In the event that job action does happen, do you have any sort of contingency plans for the students' interests? What plans do you hope to take so that the students are taken care of, so graduations aren't delayed? et cetera? Thank you.
Thanks, Carter, for that question. Yes, we are working on that. If you look at that, again, the update page on the university's main page, you'll see a series of FAQs, frequently asked questions. We'll do everything possible, first of all, to negotiate a settlement and avoid job action. Should job action occur, we have a series of steps which we will outline there. We've begun to do so. And again, the design of every one of those steps is to mitigate the impact on students, to preserve students' ability to graduate, even though that may be delayed slightly, and for those who are graduating and attending convocation in June, to preserve that convocation for the graduating students. But I urge everybody to go to the university main page, uregina.ca, and you'll see it on the lower right-hand side, collective bargaining update. Hit that, and it will take you through to a whole series of frequently asked questions that will be updated regularly.
Thanks, Carter.
Okay, next question around here. There's a young lady there in the middle.
Hi, my name is Dina. I'm a biology student. So the Faculty Association claimed that a number of the university's changes were actually just falling into compliance with the Saskatchewan Employment Act and didn't actually change anything new that they weren't obliged to do anyways. And also that some of these changes only benefit certain specific sessionals, like full-time sessionals and things like that. Taking into account the very disproportionate wages certain members of the university earn and the imbalance of those kinds of things, would you comment on that? Like, is there ways that wages could be changed or some of the other benefits they're asking for could be provided if certain balances were taken?
I'm not absolutely sure I understand your question. I'll try, and tell me if I don't get it right. So what you're asking is, can we shuffle things or move things around within the salary and benefit envelope? That's the discussion at the table. Where do we, if we've got so much money, should we put it here, should we put it there? And we negotiate on that. Again, I can't comment on the specifics because we're still at the table, and we look forward to a continuation of those discussions on Monday and Tuesday. But the specifics I can't speak of while we're still at the table.
Okay.
The changes we made were only because of them.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what you mean there about the Employment Act.
Just to the microphone, please.
So some of their, the things that the university did agree to, their claim was that they were things that they were obliged to agree to. They weren't actually making concessions to some of their requests.
That's not my understanding.
Yes, the university would always follow applicable laws, labor laws. We must. We are a major employer. We have no choice.
That's not my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, over here still. Oh, I'm sorry, right at the front row. Okay.
Hi, my name is Michaela Kronkowitz, and I'm a PPE student. So my question is, obviously with sessional professors, it's like pretty important that they have job security and whatnot. But also when we have like roughly almost 50% of our professors are sessionals, and when they're sessionals, they're not really encouraged to do like research, whereas full-time professors are. So I feel like as a university, we're supposed to be a research institution. So when we have like half of our professors not being encouraged to actually do research, kind of defeats the purpose of the research institution that this is supposed to be. So my question is, I don't know if you're going to be able to really answer this in depth because of the whole constraint, but why, like, aren't we hiring more full-time professors?
Maybe I can speak to that. Just remember what I said about sessionals. So not all the same, right? So many, the majority actually of our sessionals have full-time jobs and only want to teach a course or 2 or 3 because they want to bring their practical experience to the university. So when you're referring about sessionals not doing research, sessionals are paid to teach, and that's a big difference in the salary between tenured professors and sessionals, because their only obligation is teaching, and professors teach, research, and have service. So they have multiple requirements that we don't expect of our sessionals. So that is also a distinction. I think we should have more full-time faculty, and we're trying to do that within the budget restraints that we have. So you get -7, and then you get 0. Our tenured faculty are very important, but you have to have the finances to do it. So last year, We made it a priority, and we hired, or not hired, we actually approved 5 additional tenured faculty, and we are hoping to be able to do a similar thing this year. We absolutely agree. We would like to see more tenured faculty.
So maybe I could just add to that, Michaela. The use of sessional lectures varies widely from faculty to faculty, depending on the structure of the program in the faculty and the staffing complement. So nursing has about 4% of its courses sessionally taught, whereas in social work last year, because of a series of strange circumstances, including illness of full-time faculty members, sabbatical leaves of full-time faculty members, things like that, it went as high as 60%. It's back down now to about where it should be. Across the institution as a whole, about 38% of course sections are taught sessionally. And as Vianne has said, sessional lecturers are hired per course. They're not hired as full-time people. About 82% of our sessional lecturers teach fewer than 4 courses a year. That's 4 courses a year. Now there are some for whom teaching is effectively a full-time job. And again, though I can't comment on negotiations, we've really tried to focus on the sessional lecturers who are taking that heavy load of their own volition and seeing what we can do for that group of people particularly. Hope that helps.
Okay, anybody, here we go, right here in the middle. We got one. We'll come back there. We're going to go around the room like this.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm an economics student. My question is, will the university be refunding students for any classes lost due to strike action?
We would not refund students. What we will do is put alternate mechanisms or alternate schedules in play. All right, so we're going to try to do everything we can to ensure that students complete the courses that they have started and that they're currently in. If there is a totally unexpected turn of events, we'll then have to reconsider that. But at this point, we're not planning on refunds because we do not plan on having the kind of disruption that would totally derail your courses.
Okay. Oh, we have one here. We'll get to you. Don't worry. Everybody's going to get a chance.
Hi, my name's Brad. I'm a grad student in Ed Psych. And I'm just wondering, because we've been talking about this in our class, two-pronged question. Do you expect that this work action could possibly lead into spring and summer session classes? And if so, how would you then catch up with classes, like put these mechanisms in place you'd mentioned? Like, are we going to have to try and finish classes while we're taking summer session and spring classes?
We certainly hope that that would not be the case, Brad. Were that to be the case, we will develop a series of contingency plans and communicate them out clearly. But we do not anticipate that it will impact the spring and summer.
Okay, moving back here. Anybody in that kind of section? Or at the, standing at the back, anybody? No? Oh, here we have someone here.
I have a question just with your last comment, Annette Ermine. I'm one class away from my master's along with hundreds of other students that has to be taken this spring and summer. Your last comment that it's not, that it probably won't affect the spring and summer, how is that? I need to know.
We will do our best.
But what is that? I need to know what that would look like.
What we're focused on, Annette, if I may, is the successful completion of negotiations next week so that we do not have a work stoppage. We're doing our best.
No, I understand that, but you said it wouldn't be interrupted, but I need to know how would it not, how am I still going to complete my spring and summer if they're going to be on my one class, if they're going to be on strike?
So Annette, your question is, you've got a May-June class that you need in order to convocate?
May to August is one class.
May to August. In the case of other universities that have experienced strikes, what has happened is a compression of term and sometimes a lengthening of the class time. But again, we're not planning on that at this point. It's a contingency because we really want that negotiated settlement.
Because I'm wondering, I mean, they've been without a contract for 2 years. I mean, it seems like it's likely. It seems to me that you would already have done something to avoid this strike after 2 years.
We have been bargaining in good faith at the table, and we're going to continue to do so on Monday and Tuesday.
You're not answering my question.
I'm doing my best.
Okay, back here, anyone? Moving over and over. Okay, I think we had, yeah, at the back there, exactly.
Danse Benedictun Equa Onichis Nitogen. Hi, my name is Ben Retro. I'm from Saddle Lake Cree Nation in Alberta. I'm currently a student here at the U of R for social work, and I was just curious of a question. For this strike, regarding our marks, how long would it take to get our marks back once we're done our winter semester?
So you're asking us to speculate on something that has not happened yet. We have multiple contingency plans on many different options. And so that's a very difficult question that we don't know, because we don't know, one, if there'll be job action. We don't know what kind of job action. So we have many, many different contingency plans. So I can't answer that specifically. But we'll do our best to try to make sure our students get what they need to get through the term. And that, I know that's not helpful, but it's the best we can do right now. And we have, as have, the faculty union, we have looked at every different scenario that we can possibly think of and trying to develop contingency plans for you. Okay?
Okay. Before I get there, because I sort of want to move this way. Anybody else back there? Here we go. We'll go back to, we'll get to you, don't worry.
This is actually a question online from Priscilla Dickinson. She was just wondering why the out-of-scope employees are getting a higher increase than faculty. It's a point that URFA has made many times, so she'd just like an answer to that.
So I want to speak to that because I have heard that. So out-of-scope is a big group. Again, not all the same. Many of the people in human resources and staff members are out-of-scope. It's not administration. Right? Everyone thinks out-of-scope is all administration. It is part administration, but a lot of other staff that manage confidential information. The out-of-scope has not had an increase of cost of living since 2016. And that is, we have that on the website. There has been some performance increases, but there also has been for faculty step through the ranks and merit. So they're not negotiated at the negotiation table. What's negotiated at the negotiation table is a cost of living increase. Right? And we have worked to be fair to all of our employee groups.
So if I could just add to that and say hi to Priscilla, because I remember she wrote me, and I wrote back to her. As the president has said, out-of-scope economic increase was frozen in 16-17. All out-of-scope compensation was frozen in 17 and 18, and then in 18-19, the economic adjustment is frozen as well. So information that claims otherwise is not accurate, and we're in tight financial times with the grant situation and the need, our real need, to try to mitigate tuition and fee increases.
Okay, here we go, gentleman here.
Hey there, I'm Matt. I'm a computer science student. I have a work term starting in the summer, and so I'm fortunately in town, but some people are out of town. If there is job action, is there a contingency plan for those who may be out of town and can't come and take classes in May and June?
They are working on that, Matt, right now as we speak, and probably keep an eye. One of the things you can do in the bargaining update page is sign up to be notified when there are updates to that page. Maybe you could do that. And when that FAQ is updated, you will get an email saying, have a look.
Okay, back here. Is there somebody back there? No? Oh, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Erin. I just have a question because you keep talking about budgets and grants.
Erin, can you put the mic close?
Yes,
Oh, sorry,
up.
I know I'm very quiet. So looking at 2018, the provincial budget gave us $5 million to fight over for the U of R, the UFS, and federal colleges. This year it says that it's going to give the UFS $115.4 million. So if you could just explain those money if we aren't receiving enough grants.
I couldn't hear part of what you said.
Yeah, could you maybe just repeat the numbers you quoted just quickly?
And put the mic really close to your mouth.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
sorry everybody. So in 2018, the College of Medicine got $18 million of loan. The U of R had to fight over with the U of S and federated colleges for $5 million in the provincial budget. 2019, that was announced this year, a couple of days ago, that the U of R was going to be granted, $115.4 million. So how can you tell me there's not enough money when last year we had to fight over $5 million alone, and this year we're going to alone get $115.4 million. So if you could just explain those numbers.
I'll do my best, and what we've seen this year for 19-20, the fiscal 19-20 that was announced in Wednesday's budget, is a freeze. from what we had last year. So there's no increase in the funding to the University of Regina in that base operating grant year over year. Yet our inflationary costs go up at 3 to 4% per year. That's our challenge. The $80-some million to the College of Medicine at the University of Saskatchewan, I think, caught a lot of us by surprise, and I can't comment on the rationale for that decision. That's a government decision. We need a College of Medicine. Medicine is a very expensive discipline, but our grant is frozen.
Okay, so we're getting this fellow right here, he's been waiting. We'll get back, go to the back.
So I'd just like to expand on the question from the young lady earlier.
Could your name and
I'm Chris. I'm in the kinesiology department. And in your statement for the update, you said that you were granting giving some leeway on certain things, but the URFA updated and basically said, no, that's not something you're permitted to not do. It's part of the Saskatchewan Labor Act. Why are you touting that as an accomplishment when that's something you're required to do anyway?
I'm not sure what the specifics are that URFA is referring to. Again, we must comply with all relevant labor legislation. What we've tried to do in negotiations is respond to URFA's demands or requests on changes where we can and we're able to make changes.
So I'll read this to you since you don't seem to know what it's about. So your statement from the URFA bargaining team, we accepted a number of proposals that will substantially benefit academic staff, sessional lecturers, such as enhanced group insurance, dental, optical, extended health benefits for sessionals who have been employed by 26 consecutive weeks and have worked 780 hours or more. Their response was the gain for full-time employment, full-time equivalent sessionals was not something given by the university. It is simply the compliance with the Saskatchewan Employment Act 239, the regulation section 35(4)(b). This legislation requires that sessionals working the equivalent of full-time hours be offered the same enhanced group insurance, health, dental, optical, and extended benefits, so on and so forth. Why are you touting that as an accomplishment when you have to do it anyway?
Because the settlement that we are offering for sessionals applies to sessionals as a group, not just the very small percentage of sessionals who are effectively working full-time, the whole group.
It's to all, part-time and everyone.
But that doesn't answer the question. Why are you saying that this is an accomplishment in your update, your broadcast to the university saying, hey, this is the things we're trying to do, this is the things we're trying to help the students with? Why are you saying that when that's something that's not an accomplishment, it's something that you have to do?
We believe it is an accomplishment for those who are not full-time sessionals, for the group as a whole. This is part of a settlement offer which would put an additional $5.6 million to faculty, including sessionals, in salary and benefits.
So remember, 82% of our sessionals are not full-time, and we are not required to provide those benefits to them under the Labor Act, and we have offered to do so. So it is an accomplishment for all of those.
And if I may just, sorry, your name again? Chris. We value these people. We value sessionals. They are great people. We've just heard that somebody's life has been changed by contact with the sessionals. But given the budget that we have, given the revenue that we have to work with, we've got to be very careful in how we try to allocate it out. And in trying to spread that across the sessionals as a group, we're trying to benefit as many people as possible, including the 82% of sessionals who teach 3 or fewer courses a year.
The fellow that right there.
My name is Blake. I'm an economics student. Something that you had said was in 2012 you had funding cut to the university.
No.
Funding reduced?
No, starting in 2012, the rate of increase in the government grant began to fall behind the rate of increase in inflationary costs. So if our costs were going up at, say, 3 or 4%, it was in that year, 2012-13 fiscal, in which the grant began to fall behind inflationary costs. And therefore, that gap began to widen. Given that the university's revenue is basically 50% grant and 40% tuition, with 10% coming from contract revenue and federated college arrangements, much of that gap, as it begins to appear, then has to be backfilled with tuition and fee revenue.
So there's just less revenue coming to the university. So how can you justify, both of you, taking pay increases? Dr. Timmons, yours is posted, that you took $16,000 and an increase in salary, and I think you took $25,000 in an increase in salary from 2012 to today. So how can you justify that with costs going up? We're paying more tuition. And the reputation of our institution, according to Maclean's, is at the bottom. So I see a disconnect that we're paying more for not a great institution, according to Maclean's.
Well, Maclean's, we can debate that and what they use for their markers, but I am concerned that we are not ranking it higher in Maclean's. So first of all, I'll mention that. All I can say is that since 2016, Outer Scope have had zero increase on cost of living. So I don't know where that statistic came from that was put forward, but and we're talking about since 2016, right? I mean, this is what the negotiation is. And we are trying to be fair to all employee groups. Nobody has had preferential treatment in that.
My name is Nicole. I'm a graduate student in biology, and I'm concerned that job action is going to affect my ability to do research. So if the faculty does strike, I've heard that the university has the option to consider a lockout. And I'm concerned as a graduate student, if I can't get into the lab to check on my experiments every day, that's going to severely affect my research and the research of many other students at this school.
That's a great question. All the questions are great, but I want to answer this one. There will be no lockout on this institution. We will not be locking out any staff, faculty, or students at any point. So I hope that reassures you. Okay, that will not happen here.
And if I can add to that too, we had a discussion about that very concern, about labs, particularly labs with creatures, living animals, and so on. And the deans and the associate deans have met to begin to discuss how we would handle those situations. But as the president says,
there will be
no lockout.
Jermaine Mackenzie, education student. I want to try to put certain perspective on what I've heard and seen so far from my experiences. So, first of all, I think you're in a very unenviable position, and so I really thank you for giving students this opportunity to really voice their frustration about what is happening and their apprehension around a strike. But I think there's a seed they're missing. I think the government needs to be here, given the role that they play in terms of the operation, the grant, right? Because that is still where the majority of our funding comes from. And that is where we have seen a decline in terms of keeping up with the inflationary costs of the institution, just the growth of the institution. And so I think that puts the institution in a really tight spot in terms of maintaining the services that students need and desire in order for them to be able to accomplish their academic goals. But I think we have to have a much wider discussion on this issue. Because as you said, it's not unique to University of Regina. That is true. U of S, they haven't had a contract in 2 years either, right? And across the country, if you follow the news, you see several different institutions that are facing this very similar pressures to what the University of Regina is faced with. So what I am seeing as a student who is observing everything that I see happening around me is that certain policies are being pursued which are changing the university without us really having an intelligent conversation about how that change should take place, right? And I think that is undermining the quality of education that we are receiving from this institution. And I see it. I go to classes and I see that students are stressed out because they're working too many hours. They're worried about what their future will be like because they're carrying heavy debt burdens. And we have to start talking about these conversations, right? These are affecting our lives and these are affecting the society that we will have to live with much longer than many of the people who are in those powers of decision and can actually do something about what we're faced with at this point, right? So I think we have to make sure that we are holding the government accountable for its role in this situation. Yes, a lot of students believe that administration salary is way above and beyond what we think it should be. And that is because we are required to pay so much, right? We keep asking us for more. And we do not have it. We literally do not have it. And we're panicking about every semester where we're going to get that money from. And we are the most vulnerable sector within this equation. And yet we are exploited year after year after year after year. And this has gotten to a situation now where it is obviously a threat to how the society will function going forward. Because you're creating a generation of students who are going to be suffering from severe mental health issues. Because every day, every semester, we are stressed out. And so we have to be serious about getting the government to the table to come here and sit with us and explain to us what exactly is your vision for post-secondary institutions within this province, and how does your vision align with what you're saying in that you want Saskatchewan to be the place where people come to live and work, because it doesn't add up. And I'm going to speak to this issue because I think it's very, very critical, right? The way in which international students, as the most vulnerable segment of that equation, is being treated, right? You have people who are coming from the so-called third world, right? Where a lot of them are coming from places where exchange rate is 100 to 1, 200 to 1, and a ridiculous amount, right? And yet there is hardly anything in place for them when they run up into situations where their family might get ill. It's almost as if we don't treat these people like human beings because they're so easily exploited. And they can come here, not finish their program, and they just fall through the cracks, and none of us remember them. None of us remember them. But we need to actually be a moral institution, right? We should be a moral institution because in my mind, a university's mandate is to work towards improving our society, our community, and the world at large. And I think right now, with what we have in place, we are not doing that. And we have to be honest about this discussion with, as I said, not just within ourselves, but with the government that has a huge part to play in this. And we shouldn't be afraid to call them out when they're making decisions that are harmful to the students and that are harmful to the academic and economic long-term interests of this province. Really, so I'm sorry to take up so much time, but I think there's a lot of perspective that we miss when we're just looking at this from a faculty administration perspective. Yes, I think we have to really be cognizant of the salaries that we're taking home versus what students are having to pay. And the young man asked a very fair question and a very honest question, and I'm glad he did, because that is a part of this discussion as well. I don't have any questions because I think I've asked a lot over and over through the years.
I will mention, Jerome, as Jermaine, I know who Jermaine is well. As an undergrad student, I worked 40 hours a week. I came from a very, not very economically well-off family. I do know how tough it is for students. I lived it, I breathed it, and I did it, and it was hard. So I have a lot of understanding and empathy for how tough it is for our undergrad students. So I will just want to put that out there.
Jermaine, I too really appreciate your remarks. You and I have had many conversations about this. We continually try to articulate that investing in education, whether it's K-12 or post-secondary, is an investment in the future. And yet, there are so many pressing demands that the government faces in the healthcare system, in the justice system, in the social services system, and without enough to go around. But I stand behind your remarks. We need to have a robust conversation if we want a truly well-educated populace, a socially cohesive populace. We need a healthy post-secondary system. And what's going on across the country, if you look what's happened in Ontario, where the Ontario government is announcing next week a budget that could be extremely damaging to that province's universities, we need to have not just a provincial conversation, but a national conversation about post-secondary funding. I agree.
And as you know, Jermaine, we have been putting more and more resources into supporting emergency funds, and that was one of the things you advocated so hard for when you sat on the Board of Governors. So we have done that. We've invested in to support students who are in need, and we will continue to do that.
Okay. Anyone else with any thoughts or questions? We have a young woman back here. Oh, she's going.
Put that mic very close up so we can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Again, I want to thank you guys. Catherine, BA International Studies. I want to thank you for doing this. But I just do have a question. So I do understand what the URFA wants, right? They want better living conditions and being treated fairly and all of those stuff. And I am all for that. And also, I understand it, everything. But what I don't understand is what you guys do. You guys are earning tons of money, and I am actually at loss at what exactly you are doing for the university. I know my professors and my sessionals are taking like tons of time doing plans and everything to teach us. So they're putting hours after university hours to do all the things so that they will be ready for the next day to teach their classes. But I don't know what the administration does except for getting tons of money, basically.
Why don't you shadow me for a day? No, I'm serious. Actually, I have
actually
no
work
problem.
full time, but I can take
because
an
I know,
hour
and the
out of-
provost is like I know the hours that executive puts in. I know many the hours out of scope, and we work hard for you at a different level than the professors. And I want to mention something about the quality of this university. I want to say that our professors work very hard. They teach well, they research. I'm very, very proud of the quality of this university. And I think the only way to lift the reputation is that each and every one of us lifts it together. Because it is a university that's inclusive, that has international students. It has almost 15% Indigenous students. We have over 800 students with disabilities. We are an inclusive campus that I think is doing extraordinary things. So I just want to say this is an institution I am proud to be president of. And so when I hear questions about Maclean's and quality, I know every day when I walk the halls and I talk to colleagues and I talk to staff who work so hard, this is a quality institution. And we're very proud of it. And we're proud of you, our students, and as graduates. So help me with that. I want you to keep saying that this institution will only be as good as you talk about it. Right?
So I can follow up a little bit. And I too would invite you to spend a day, if you can do it, with us. I would be delighted to show you what we do. I won't say how hard the president works. She works incredibly hard. Just to give you a couple of things that we're doing right now, we're actually in the process of working with deans to hire new faculty, to replace retiring faculty and fill the new positions that were created next year. Another thing that we're working on right now is a series of academic program reviews. Journalism is being reviewed as we speak, and we work with external experts from other universities to evaluate those programs and provide input to improve those programs. Those are just two of the things that we're working on right now. But I'd be delighted to spend a day, or have you spend a day on our floor. Please feel welcome.
At the back.
So this is another online question from Libin Salad. In the case of job action, will the university be refunding or compensating international and domestic students who have booked flights after the exam period, either to return home or to go on to another career or something like that? So is there something in place if that job action occurs?
That's a hypothetical question. There's nothing in place to date. If we need to revisit that, we will do so. But at this point, our focus is on achieving a collective agreement.
Anybody else? I don't want to cut it off if there are still people thinking that you want to say something and raise a point, intervene. We have one back there.
Hi, I'm Brighton. I'm a biology student. I'm from out of town and I live in residence. So if theoretically the final exam period was extended, would my housing contract be extended as well?
We will make arrangements for students to be accommodated should that occur. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Back here.
Hello. I'm just wondering if we are truly...
Could you say your name, please, and your field?
My name is Dana. If we are truly raising this institution together, why isn't there discussion about the highest wages being cut instead of tuitions being raised?
So I'll mention that, I've said it before, that the outer scope took no increases and for a number of years, no performance increases since 2016. And we did that, and we'll continue to manage fiscally as best we can. If you look at our salaries are posted, they're open. If you look at how they compare to other institutions across the country, you will see that we fall in a range that is either at mid or lower. So, I'd encourage you to take a look at that and look at the comparison. Okay?
Right here. Got the mic coming.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for great meeting. This is a good chance to deal with what is going on. We know everything. So I am studying here long time, from graduate until right now. I'm PhD student. The main question before the bargaining table. You told 2012 before is good, everything going on good, but after the 17 and 18 it is less down, it's freeze. But my question. The lab, when you do the experiment in the lab, the instrument is not working. Most of the instrument not working. We talk to the supervisor, we don't have the fund. So how can I finish my project, my research?
Are you in engineering or in science?
Engineering. Process system engineering.
So beginning about 5 years ago, we put an additional $200,000 a year into engineering equipment fund. That will be continued this year no matter what our budget is. And the engineering students, bless their hearts, have voted themselves to an additional kind of levy to supply more money for engineering equipment replacement and renewal. So we're doing our best. We've done the same for the Faculty of Science. We can always use more for capital. We can always use more for equipment replacement. We have needs in kinesiology. We have needs in science. We have needs in engineering. And again, we are doing our best with the resources that are available to us.
But I'm talking about the GHG. The green gases building, there is a lab. There's many instrument is not working. I spoke with my supervisor, he don't have the fund. The instrument repair charge is at least 15,000. So how can I afford? I can't afford that much money. But supervisor also not afford. What is my question? How can I forward to go research finish? Instrument is not working.
Let me follow up and mention to the Dean of Engineering, and I'd encourage you to talk to the Dean of Engineering about that situation. It's very specific, so we can't speak to it. The faculties are run fairly independently in terms of where they invest money for equipment and their facilities. Right? But we will raise it, in particular for the grad students.
Yeah, according to Tom, early told it is in violation of the freezing. Monday and Tuesday is going to be talk. It is violation. I not understand why it is violation.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Can we get the mic? Hang on. We better get the mic back here because it's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. The beginning of the meeting, you told the violation is going on to talk to the Monday and Tuesday.
Negotiations.
But is going to violation. I cannot understand why you're using the violation word.
While we continue to negotiate with URFA, we cannot discuss the specifics of what we're negotiating. That would be a breach of bargaining protocol. So we continue to bargain at the table on Monday and Tuesday, but we can't discuss publicly what we're saying at that table. Okay?
So after this meeting, maybe we can get the funding back, or how it is?
I hope so.
but look on the website to see what we've offered and what we've agreed to, because I think it will be helpful. How many of you have done that?
Yeah,
Okay,
the microsite went up today.
Yeah,
with it.
but in terms of looking at bargaining page was always there. But now we put it right on the website so it's really accessible, because before you had to look for it right on our web. Go look at it, educate yourselves. There are always, as with every negotiation, two sides. Make sure that you go and look at both sides. I'd encourage you to do that. This is you're right. This is about you. And so you need to get all the information you can. And I'm not, there are two absolute sides, but the information is there. Okay?
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Yep, one back here.
Hi, my name is Lishika. I'm from the US. I'm an exchange student here this semester, and I'm just not quite satisfied with the answer we got previously. Do you have any plans to make plans for exchange students or others who have flights that literally cannot be here if the exam period is extended?
We are discussing contingencies, but again, Alicia, I know this is very frustrating to you. We're focused on getting that agreement so that people's progress toward graduation and course completion is not impacted.
But I will mention that the international office is looking at the situations for all exchange students, and they are looking at contingency planning for you specifically. So that Werner's here, you're nodding. That is happening right now. So we know your situation, and we are making plans for you. So I hope that is a little more satisfying.
Okay, well, we have another email question.
So this is another one from Priscilla Dickinson. She just wanted a bit more clarification on the issue of student to faculty ratio. As far as she knows, the U of R has a low student to faculty ratio. What is your plan to keep that so, or will that be affected in the future?
We will do our best to keep a low student to faculty ratio. What we're seeing right now is growth at a great rate in some areas and stasis or decline in other areas. I'll give you an example. Priscilla, if you're on the line there, we've seen a tremendous increase in computer science students, both undergraduate and graduate. It's up over 100% in the past 4 years. And so what we're trying to do, beginning with last year's budget, is put new academic positions into computer science to meet some of that demand. And this year, thanks to the generosity of the Faculty of Arts, a sum of money is being transferred from arts to help pay for a 2-year term appointment in computer science, again, to meet some of that demand. Our difficulty is that when demand in other areas begins to decline, that doesn't mean that the staff complement declines. And that's our challenge. So our costs there are fixed despite enrollment going down, whereas over here enrollments are going up dramatically, and we're trying to get resources there in an era in which we have very few new resources. So I hope that helps.
Right there.
Hi, my name's Desiree Skulski, and I am a student in the Faculty of Business. I was just wondering, if the strike does occur, what could that mean for students writing final exams for this semester?
So Desiree, again, when when a strike happens, some faculty may choose to continue to work and continue to do what they do and provide exams. The group we would be concerned about are the ones who choose to pick it and not class pick line. So it is a really challenging thing. There are so many scenarios. Some professors may just provide final marks on your coursework. I had a student come into the president's office just recently and say, if we're going on strike, why do I have to pass in my final assignment? Because it's due March 29th, and why would tell me not to do it? And my advice to students is prepare for your exams, get all your assignments in. We are really committed to try to make sure there's no job action. We can't guarantee that. We are committed to the process. What may happen for one student may get their final exam, another student may not. It depends on, again, what each professor chooses to do if there is job action. So it is very complex. So there are many, many different options that professors will have to help you, and many options we will have to help you. Okay? So the big thing is, you may have your final exams. Prepare for them, right? We hope you have your final exams, so prepare for them.
Right here.
Matt Hall, I'm an engineering student. There's been talk that the job action may be grade withholding instead of a strike. The way I kind of see it is, I've paid for my tuition here, I paid for my degree, those grades would be my property, and I don't fully understand how they would be able to withhold them. Could you just comment on the legality of that?
I wouldn't care to comment on that. I'd ask you to contact the Faculty Association and get them to comment on that.
Do you have any idea if it's legal or not?
Is it legal?
I don't know the answer to that, Matt. But I'd urge you to contact URFA.
Okay, again?
But you guys are asking very good questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Here. Briefly.
I'm Syed Agate, engineering department. So my question is, you're going for the strike, but the strike, how long it will take time? Because in 2009, in Toronto, the York University had the strike. It is at least 12 months is gone. So that much time they closed the university, the loss of years of the students. So do you have any idea about this strike, how long going? What is this, how is this procedure? The university will be closed or open? What is this? Because the same thing happened in Toronto. This is starting just similar, simply start. It's gone through all 12 months. It's 1 year loss, all students.
Yeah.
So what is this? This is same thing is going on, or going to be solved it is very quickly?
Yeah. Certainly couldn't speculate on the length of a strike. If a strike occurs, our focus is to avoid job action completely.
And we'll keep trying to do that. Right.
I'm scared about that.
Many universities in Canada have gone through strikes. I mean, you know that. I was at the University of Prince Edward Island when there was a strike. You know, everyone is different and everyone manages through it the best they can. And we are learning from other people's experiences in terms of contingency planning for you as students. But ultimately, we want the process to work. So we have 2 days of bargaining coming up. We want that process to work for you and for the campus as a whole.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, what are we doing for time? Well, we got about 1.5 minutes to go. Another question here?
You mentioned that if you could, you'd have profs come back and keep marking and doing stuff like that. But I mean, I can understand the difficulty for profs of crossing a picket line. Yeah. Everybody does during a strike. It's not that easy. Is there anything discussing TAs or RAs from grad students or anything like that, trying to help out to do the marking or the work?
Oh, that's under consideration.
It's under consideration. What can't be done is people taking on work that is typically done by a striking employee, right? That's not kosher. So we're talking about a number of scenarios, and again, I know you find this very unsatisfactory. We're trying to avoid reaching that point.
So I want to make a clarification. You said that I hope that professors would come to work and mark. I didn't say that quite. I said professors have a choice, right? Some will choose to come and mark and finish and offer their exams, and others will choose not to. I am not suggesting one is better or worse than the other. So I want to be very careful, because the next thing I know, it will be out there that the president says. The last thing I want to say is some of the social media that I have read about the bargaining situation have included personal attacks. And we're better than that in this university. We have a respectful workplace policy. We are better than that. So I would encourage you, if you see personal attacks, say that's not acceptable, because it is not acceptable. This is a bargaining process. There's nothing that should be personal in it. And I need you as students to help me make sure that this campus is one where we can have negotiations, we can have discussions, we can have differences, and each and every one of us are treated respectfully. And students, I've seen some of the social media out there, and I'm disappointed in it when it becomes personal. And I've been subject to it, so I know the impact that has. So please help us with that. This is a process that we have to go through, and there is nothing in here that warrants personal attacks. So help me, please. Make sure that this institution can be the best it can be, and that we are a respectful place that doesn't tolerate that kind of abuse. Okay, help me with that?
I think that that's a very positive and sort of hopeful
note.
note.
I want to thank you.
Yeah, no, that's right. Maybe if you...
Yeah, I want to just say, you know what, I know that I look old to you, but I remember so vividly being a student. And I grew up in Labrador in a small mining community, and I remember when I hit that campus, how overwhelmed I was and how tough it was for my undergrad working 40 hours. I know how tough it is for students. I've lived it. And you may say, well, that was so long ago when you used to walk bare feet, 5 miles to work. or just school. It was, for me, it was yesterday in my mind and in my memory, and so I know it's hard. We care deeply about you. That's why we're here. You are the University of Regina. You're the only reason we exist, and we want to make sure your experience has the least stress as possible. We can't control everything. We're trying our best to work with the professors and the faculty association, but we don't want you impacted negatively, and we'll do everything we can to prevent that. And the fact that you're engaged and you're interested and that you're here is so important. And I'll ask you also, please go on the website, read the updates, check with URFA, read their updates, get informed, because that will be something for the rest of your life you will find. People have different views, different ideas on things. Often the same thing is seen through different lenses, and the best thing we can do as educated students is to get informed. I'm really proud that you're here today, and thank you for asking for this. Tom?
Pretty difficult to follow President Timmons and that eloquence. We're going to work our darndest on Monday and Tuesday at the bargaining table to get a good collective agreement. And I just remind you that the university's current offer would put an additional $5.64 million in salaries and benefits to faculty and sessionals. And we're going to bargain on that basis on Monday and Tuesday. Thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.